going? Okay. Hey everyone. Good afternoon. I like that. I'm so glad that you decided to spend some of your afternoon, this Thursday afternoon with me. When Dr. Almond asked me to give a talk, part of the series, I really was not like thinking of, okay, what should I share? Right? My research, my career, like which one should I do? And then I thought, well, all of those I can talk during my classes, during my research. There's not even a time that I talked about my journey, my own experience. And so I was like, maybe this is the time to do that. And so the goal is whatever experiences I have had, hopefully, there will be some insights that you can pick and shed some light on your own journey in your life. So that's the goal today. So sit back and come with me as we explore back to where it started. So that's my home country, the Philippines. As you can see, it looks like little dots in the map. And there's a reason for that, because they are like little dots. Because there is about 7,000 islands that comprise the Philippines. The exact number is dependent on whether it's low tide or high tide. Okay, so that's how complicated it is. There are about 130 tribes that live there and speak about 100 dialects. So we're in the same country and we don't really quite understand each other most of the time. We of course have a common language, like any country, and that's the Filipino. Like English is also what English people are called, right? So that's what's the common theme with us. And we were discovered by a Portuguese sailor who just went there accidentally to find some spices and then went back and paid homage to Spain instead of Portugal. And with that was the gift of his finding of this island with a lot of spices, and that was then offered to the King of Spain, who was King Philip, and now we are called the Philippines. So that's kind of the history of that. And just like some of those, bad circumstances, that comes out good things, because after that we were under the Spanish rule for more than 300 years. Can you imagine? 300 years, you've got your masters with you, right? But there was a very good thing that came out of that, because we became Christians because of that. We are the only predominantly Christian nation in this whole Southeast Asia. So that was good, wasn't it? Right? But we did have the Spanish conquistadors, right? Came to us, ruled for 300 years, and it was only after the Americans came and we were freed from Spain and gained our own independence, became a sovereign nation after World War II. So finally, we are our own, the Philippines. And so when you get through that process, it's quite difficult to actually stand on your own immediately. So at that time, poverty level was very high in the Philippines. When I was growing, the poverty level was 45%. So it's like 45% of the entire country are poor. That makes sense? And so I was one of those. My family was in that category, right? And so as I was growing, it was like ingrained in you that the only way to get out of poverty is good education, right? And so everybody, of course, all families ingrained their children with that. So school was very stiff and competitive because everybody wants to be the best in school, right? Like that's your only path to get out. So, and the other thing that I want to share is that we have shorter school term. So we go first to sixth grade and then high school. So we don't have middle school. So I finished high school at 16. So I was 16. What do you think when you're 16? Right? What do you do with your life? Like, no, not really. Like, I'm a teenager, just like any teenager, right? What are you gonna do with your life? So we were all waiting for that scholarship, that's your pass to go to the university because it was very expensive, right? So scholarship was our key, so everybody's waiting for that scholarship from every university. And so when the results came, now you're like, okay, where am I going? Which part? So as you can see here, this is the northern Philippines, this is the central Philippines, and this is the southern Philippines. I came from this area, and most of the scholarships are offered in our area, wherever you are. And I picked the one that was going here. That was like the southernmost tip of the Philippines. So if you look at that here, relatively, I'm actually closer, when I go here, I'm actually closer to Malaysia than to the mainland of the Philippines. And so why did I pick that, right? Just like any teenager. University, going to university is like Independence Day, right? Freedom, I want to be on my own now, right? I can go do my own thing, right? Just like any teenager. And that was the reason for me to go there and explore that far. So I went, and now I went to Tawi-Tawi is the name of the area. So that was a state university, and like I said, I didn't know what I was going for, right? And so what was this university about? So I got my orientation, just like you guys, you know, with your orientation. Then I learned, oh, so this is a university that focuses on fisheries, technology, and oceanography. And I said, what is that? Right? You don't know what is oceanography and all that kind of deal, but I will get my education, that's for sure. That's the main thing, I will get my education. But I don't know what to pursue. So I was just looking and looking. Now, when you're growing, you know, there are things, there are professions where you're like, I want to be that, or I want to be that. What I wanted at that time, what was like attracted to me was newscasting. So you watch TV and you see these anchors, you know, very well polished and very eloquent. I was like, I want to be like that. Well, that's not happening because that's not going to be in this university, right? There's no mass communication. It's like fisheries, right? All of that. I have no choice here. What am I going to do? So then the Dean of the College of Science started his announcement. We will be launching this first degree, and that is, of course, marine biology. That sounded like cool. Marine biology, it sounds cool. And then what's the other thing? Oh, the other thing was, and I see a lot of videos, right, with divers and very beautiful sceneries and fish, and that's all. Like, oh, that is so cool. And then the last thing that he said, it sounded like really cool, even cooler. He said, so the first that graduates in this degree is going to be the pioneer of the degree. I didn't know what it was, but it sounds really cool. Pioneer, I will be pioneer. That's the deal. Let's sign up for it. So they sealed the deal. I'm going to be a marine biologist. And there you go, started. And mind you, as you have probably seen, that is essentially our footsteps. Like, we are in the middle of the ocean, right? We're an island, so every footstep, you are in the water. So it's like every day to class is field trip, right, for us. So just go there and do the work. And that's when I now have realized that I have the worst sea sickness. And so a marine biology degree with a sea sickness, right? How can you put that together? So I was like, okay, I think this is the worst decision I have ever made in my life. Like, why did I even sign up for this, you know? And I'm sure some of you have those moments, right? It's like, golly, what was I thinking? And then it dawned to me, and this is one of those things that I want you to hopefully, you know, like there are some, our grandparents, you know, I have very, very high respect with my grandpa. My grandpa, as you know, is not educated. He can read, he can write, but he can only read one book. He only read one book. You know what that book is? Yes. That's the only one. So every time we get together, there has to be a Bible time, right? And all of his valors and what he did when he was younger. And then the word of wisdom. There's always that, right? What is that? It's one of the key things, and I never forget this. And every time I have challenges, that is the phrase that came to me. He always said, always do the best you can, because the Lord will bless you according to his plan. And so that dawned to me, and I thought, okay, I signed up for this for no reason. It has to be his plan, right? And I can't let these seasickness, whatever this may be, not get me through this plan. So I had to do my part. I have to get over this. How should I get over this, right? And of course, there's always solutions to that, And you know who helped me with that? The fisher folks in the island, right? What do you do when because these people don't have seasickness, right? And it's like, oh, just get like some ginger, make ginger as your candy. It helps. Look at the horizon. Don't ever look at the waves, just the horizon. It helps. And so after that, you get so accustomed to it, and there you go. I'm now in my senior year. Here comes another dilemma. Senior year, undergraduate thesis. What are you gonna study, right, as an undergrad? What subject should I pursue given this wide open ocean with so many organisms? Which one should I pick, right, to be my subject of study? So that's when you contemplate and you pray, and of course you do your diligence, which is the review of, what are you reviewing when you do a thesis? Literature, exactly. That's when it helps a lot. You've got to go read, okay? So what is the problem, right? That's what you go through. What would be a good problem that I can contribute in my thesis to this environment that I am in? And that's when I realized that this region is actually the main producer of this thing. So this is seaweeds, okay? It's a macroalgae, okay? So we say algae, I'm sure you probably are thinking about the scums in your, lakes, this green, unnecessary things. Well, that is a livelihood. So that's the fuel of economy in that region. And the reason is because you can get an extract of that. So the agar plates that you're using with your microbiology that came from that seaweed. So that's the main source. And then many other applications of that extract, of that agar, right? That you don't know, it's in your food, in your ice cream. A lot of the food that you're eating, it has agar because it is a very good stabilizer for food. So I thought, okay, that is the main kind of generating fuel for economy. Are the farmers? So this is the farming system there in that area. You see cornfields here. You see seaweed farms there, right? Because they don't have land, they have coast. So it's all filled with these. The problem is it doesn't go all the way around in a year because, as you know, in the Philippines it's in the tropics. So what are the seasons we have for the year? We only have 2, and it's always summer, right? It's always sunny all throughout. The only difference is there will be some rainy summer months and there will be very warm summer months. That's all, right? And so these guys won't survive on the rainy season. So the farmers won't have crops during those times. So that was kind of like, okay, so if they don't have crops, it would be good if they have what? Alternative, right? To use them, because that's the means of livelihood. If they can have an alternate to this seaweed, that might be a good thing for them. So that was my undergraduate thesis. I was like, okay, I'm gonna survey, look around in the area and find alternatives, right? And if I find alternatives, gazillion of them, right? Because the Philippines is very, very rich in species diversity, right? Because of its location, the amount of sun that we have. So that's a lot of them that can be used as alternative, especially this had gained actually prominence at some point. So that was what I have contributed. At least I gave some possible alternatives, but that's like anything else, when it comes to business, industry will always dictate what the flow of economy is going to be, and of course the shape of the market. So even though we have alternatives, because of the demand of that agar from that species, so that species is called Capophypus. This one, we have so many. This one's a Caulerpa. That gained a little traction, but not as good as that. But again, the important thing is my thesis has some contribution to that, right? So that was good. I graduated. I had that defended in my thesis. And because after I graduated, the enrollment of that degree exploded. So that university decided to hire a new faculty, and I was luckily hired for it. So I served for about 4 years, and then part of the program when you are hired by a university is your professional development, right? You can't just be teaching same thing over and over. So you're gonna have to undergo all of that development, and they dictate what you have to get through so you become an asset to the program. And so they sent me to pursue my master's degree in marine science. Now I'm going from that island, southernmost, to the northern part of the Philippines where the capital of Manila is located. So you can just imagine the culture shock from the island setting, island girl, to now in the very busy streets of Manila with the worst traffic. You can Google it, right? One of the world's worst traffic is Manila. Okay, so I was there, subjected to that. Oh boy, like how am I going to survive in this situation? But as always, I have one goal in mind, right? And this was a funny thing. This motto, I was like, I'm going to have a motto that I'm going to look after every time, right? As I am doing my master, and that was, you got to make the most of what you got at that point, right? So I was like, this is what I have. I'm going to have to toughen it up and make the most. What can I do to be successful in this endeavor? So one of the things that I have learned as I was venturing into my master's was to survive and even to be successful in a scientific community, you have to network. You cannot be on your own. You have to establish network with other people, with other programs. You have to spread your wings, right? So when I was there, first thing I did was join every club possible. Oh, there's a club of this, in the whatever. I was part of it, right? An opportunity to open up anything that would allow me to be part of, that can give me some learning things, skill, whatever it may be, it'll be new to learn. I'm there, right? I'm just volunteering, whatever it may be. And that paved the way because I was able to now work. You won't know him, he's our dearly beloved, the father of the Capophycus farming. So that farming that I was talking to you about when I was in the island, this guy who was teaching at that university was the one who actually introduced that farming that became essentially the generator of income for the Philippines, essentially, right? So he's a very beloved scientist, especially in the seaweed, realm. So it was an honor. That's why I have to put this picture there. It was an honor for me to be able to work in his lab. And I learned a lot. And that's one of those things that I would encourage you. When you get a chance to work with people who think can really mold you, you have to learn as much as you can. So for this man, I really learned a lot the value of hard work. This guy, you see how old he is now. He was already older when I was there, and he would never retire because he'd get money all the time because of his reputation. People would invest in him, right, to keep doing with his research. He was probably like already 85 at that point, and he still has a lab. Okay, he was like a professor emeritus, whatever emeritus you can give him. because he was very trusted in the community because of the reputation that he has. So it was such an honor that I was able to work in his lab. The value of hard work, and most importantly, the value of speaking the truth. He's very kind, he was very generous to all of us, but he never fails to correct us in any form whenever he sees it's not right. Is that making sense? You know, I learned a lot from that. And so I really treasured him for allowing me to pursue the things I needed. He entrusted me with projects that were all funded. This was the project that I worked on for my master's thesis. I was working on sargassum, my marine bio class. We have talked about this. This was the one that I pointed to you a while ago that gained traction a little bit because it was now exported, one of the exports, especially to Japan, because it became a very good delicacy. And then this one we started in collaboration with a Japanese researcher. So I worked all of these, and this was when I was able to get the results and was able to present in local and especially international conferences. That's when it opened a lot for me, you know, the experience and all that. And once I finished my master's, Dr. Toronto actually, it was probably his way of appreciating my work in his lab that he recommended me to work as a research fellow in that collaborator in Japan, okay? And we worked again on that specific seaweed, that is Undaria. That's the one that they're farming in Japan, because that won't never grow in the Philippines. But we were already kind of having that start up of studying it. And so he recommended me to go there and really work some more. So I went there as a research fellow. It was incredible. Incredible experience for one, because it's the first time I have seen snow. I've never seen snow, right? And touch snow. It was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, right? You can see that they're building snow. Like, it was just the coolest thing. But most importantly with that experience is working with undergrads. So one of the key things of why I was there was work on that and also be like the mentor for these undergrads who are doing their undergraduate thesis. So they were doing the projects together with me on this seaweed. I have never seen undergraduates as hardworking as these kids. So we would go, like we would start, they would be in the lab, you know, no later than 8 o'clock. Everybody's there already. And there's this silent rule. I don't know if it's a rule or an agreement, but nobody leaves the lab unless the professor left. And that professor never leaves until after 7 o'clock in the evening. I'm like, on earth? Like what? Yeah, because I was like, I'm used to after 5, you know, we go home. And I'm like, why are we not going home? And so one of the kids was like, oh, Sensei is still here. I'm like, so what? We don't leave when Sensei is there. Really? So that was the way of life, right? So you work, and you know what? That was the coolest thing though, because I was only there for 18 months, but in that 18 months, we had to go and do the field work because we have to harvest, right? And it has to coincide with the harvest time in there, and then we have to bring it to the lab and then do all of the analysis that we need to do. And finally was able to publish that, the results of that. So I would not have ever done any of that at all without the help of all these undergrads. It was incredible. And so what were we really looking at? We were looking at alginate. We also did some agar, but we already know that the content of agar in that kind of seaweed is not really competitive to the one that we have in the Philippines. So what we really focused on was alginate. So alginate has a different texture compared to agar. So depending upon what form, if you want firmer, or if you want softer type of ice cream or whatever you have, you can change that based on what you use, whether it's agar or alginate. So that was the whole point. So we extracted that out of those seaweeds, right? And we tried to identify which part of the seaweed has the most amount, you know, that kind of of study. We also went and looked at the fucoidan. So that's another extract. And for this was gaining kind of momentum in the pharmaceutical world at that time. It's like people have been convinced that the fucoidan that is found in this seaweed is a very good health supplement. So that was also the other thing that we were venturing on. So then after 18 months, I had to go back to my university, continue on my teaching, and then it happened at that time that there was a nomination for a young professionals, and it was a competition sponsored by the Rotary Club International. So it was the group study exchange. What that was, I think you've heard about Rotary Club. Rotary clubs have their districts, okay? And then this district would sponsor 4 young professionals to exchange with the other district, which is comprised of these 3 countries. So Singapore, Brunei, and Malaysia had 1 district of a Rotary. And so they will have their 4, and we are from the Philippines, and we exchange, okay? And so the reason for that is, and I didn't really get what it was until I got into the field. I just thought it was like, oh, this is cool, right? Because we had to go through the selection process, and it was competitive. And then finally, the 4 of us were selected from different professions. So you have to be like different professions. And the whole purpose is that when you go to the district, you talk about your experience as a young professional and what are the problems, right, that is actually confronting your district, okay? And so that's what we did, and that was the first time. You know, having come from a poor, background, and then the country is not the rich country, it's a third world country at that time, right? And then you come to this country like Singapore. So, get this, that was my first time to be like dining with the rich, right? Like, okay, these people are very rich. We landed, right? This is how I knew they were rich, because we landed, and then we were met by this guy with a Ferrari. I'm like, a Ferrari? Like, that is so cool. Yeah, and we're gonna ride on the Ferrari, like why? So, right, and so we were eating, whatever it is, but the coolest thing, and this is where, your perspective. I was very stereotypical, I tell you this, when I was there. When you grow up in that background, the rich people are like the mean, wicked people, like, yeah, they're rich because they're mean, all of that. And then I got there, and all these people are talking is how can we help? Like these communities, like what are the needs of these people? And that's when we were talking and sharing, right? Like, I'm like, these people are like so kind. Is this for real? Like, rich people are actually nice, like that kind of thing. And that's when it really changed my perspective after that. You can't judge people, And so after completing all that, we went through all those different countries where we were hosted. Oh, this is one experience I really want to share this, because I was really, really taken aback with this. In Singapore still, we were to have lunch with this, he was like the #1 cardiologist in Singapore. And so we were there, early, on time. We went to the hospital because he said, okay, we have to get him from the hospital because he is always having people. So we waited, we're in the reception, waiting. So almost an hour, like, okay, this is a long wait. And then finally he came out, very apologetic. Of course, I'm so sorry. And he said, I'm so sorry, I can't just give the diagnosis to my patient. I have to discuss it with the entire family. And I just thought, I go to a doctor, it's not even a #1 doctor, right? And you just get the prescription and you go. And this guy like spends an hour explaining, talking to the family, like what to do. Can we have more doctors like that? Right? Like, that is amazing. I was like, that is so cool, the coolest thing. So those are some of the experiences that I was like, oh my gosh, there are actually people that are like that. So I'm hoping that those of you who are going to be in that profession, dealing with your patient at some point, take that by heart. Because that, I think, is very essential, especially for us Christians, right? In that regard. Get this. when we had our free time with the participants, just us, talking. So what are you gonna do after this? Like when you go home, what are you gonna do? And so I made a joke and I said, I really have always dreamt to pursue a PhD, preferably the USA. And we all laugh about that, right? Because it's like USA, well, yeah, good luck. It's next to impossibility, right? Like, yeah. And so I said that exactly. If not the USA, well then any country will be okay, it's okay. So, but I didn't know. I took that by heart. We went back. Summer of that year, I was sitting, right? And it was Yahoo. I don't know if you have heard, but before Google, it was Yahoo, right? So I was Yahooing, right? Yeah, whichever, university has some opening, let's go, right? Like, make a letter. I probably sent hundreds of applications, right? All over the world, whichever it is there's opening, here you go. I'm sending. And of course, the prayer is like, if at least one, just one, right, would give a positive reply, that would be awesome. And so I started getting the replies, of course, hundreds of them with a thank you, but no thank you, right? Sorry, but we already have like hundreds of them, right? And it's okay, you don't lose hope. Just keep, out of the hundreds, there should be at least one. So finally, there was like, 1 and 2 and 3, from different areas, mostly from Asia, of course, and then I had some from Europe. And then that morning, I cannot still forget, I received the email from the professor at Michigan Tech University. It says, okay, we are interested to get you, here, we should have our phone, interview and all that kind of stuff. That was the answered prayer, right? Because I was like, that was supposed to be next to impossibility. Apparently it's not. So I'm getting my interview and going through the processes of the papers and everything. So I'm good, I'm gonna go. That was 2001. I'm sure you remember. I was prepping for everything, and it was like, no visa for anybody to get out to go to the US of A, right? Because 9/11 just happened. So I'm like, boy, is this another hurdle, But you keep the faith and you just, trust that it would happen, and it did finally. So I was able to fly. It was already 2002, in the fall of 2002. And I was late, again, because the processing of papers and everything. My professor was very, very, very kind and considerate. I was able to come in Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula. Who knows the Upper Peninsula? There you go, how this is exactly how it was in October, okay? So I was flying, we're landing, and I'm looking, I'm like, everything's white. Why is everything white? Even the pine trees are white. Like, what is happening? And then I realized, oh boy, I just came from the frying pan right into the freezer, right? Like, oh boy, can I survive on this? So my lungs get more shock than my entire body. I was suffering of asthma symptoms for like 2 months. I thought I was infected, I had bacteria, like, why am I coughing, like all these? And my doctor was just, no, you just have bronchial constrictions. You're just not used to the cold, that's all. Just do some Advair, right? And it helped. And I went through, and boy, when it got to spring and fall, there's the beauty of the Upper Peninsula. Beautiful, right? And you can see this, it will be all snow things in the winter, but then when it gets to this, that's, by the way, that's the frontage canal that's connected directly to the Lake Superior. So it's very, very beautiful there. So what did I do about all of that, right? So I got into a project. The project was about sediment stabilization and the role of, there we go, algae again. But this time, it's the micro ones. I was working with the big seaweeds and all that. Now I'm going into the microscopic ones, okay? So you can see there are so many of them as well. And I was focused on this guy right here, this kind, okay? They are called the diatoms, okay? So why are they so important? So the premise of it is when you have a lot of algae in the mud flats, it will secrete a lot of EPS, that's extracellular polymeric substance, right? That comes out of the cell, and they wrap themselves on it, and the amount of EPS that they will secrete and the kind that they will secrete will depend on the conditions, okay? And so when there's a lot of algae, it binds the mud flat, it makes your mud flat stable, okay? And so that was kind of the whole goal. And the reason it was focused on that is because we were in collaboration with the University of Essex. So Essex in England, and I went and had one of my summer to essentially work on their mud flats. So this is how their mud flats are humongous, big, right? The equivalent that we can have here, if you have seen the mud flats of Louisiana before they got the denuded, it was like that. Like they have so much mud flats. And so it was very crucial to establish, you know, the stability of the mud flats. And so that was the goal. And so there were 5 of us, graduate students, and we all will have to pick a specific topic that relates to that, the stabilization of mud flats with algae. What are you gonna work on, right? So you have to start thinking of that yourself, and then you're gonna go and tell your boss, this is the topic that I want to pursue, and that would be your dissertation, right, for your PhD. There were 5 of us, 1 from Kenya, 1 from France, 2 from the US, from different areas, and then of course myself. And I was very ambitious, stupidly ambitious. Literature, again, you have to read the literature and what is still not studied, right? And there was a mystery of these guys. These guys are made of glass, okay? So their cells, their covering, instead of your normal cell membrane, is glass. So these are cells that live in glass houses, okay, literally. The interesting part of it is there's 2 kinds of them. This is the pennate kind, so you can see they look like pens, right? And there's the centric ones. Those are like more circular, okay? What's the difference? The centrics cannot move. They just keep floating around. These guys can move, okay? So what allows them to move? And how difficult is it to move with a heavy glass house on you, right? It's like a turtle carrying things. Then it's the glass house. And so that was the mystery, right? Is nobody knows how is their movement mechanism. So one thing we know, they don't have cilia, they don't have flagella. So what is it that allows them to move? So the only possibility is EPS, the extracellular polymeric substance that might be secreted out, and they use it as a traction to essentially start gliding, right? So that was the hypothesis. So that was my goal. It's like, okay, I want to solve that mystery. I want to know what is that EPS that allows them to move. And my professor was like, really? It's gonna be like finding needle in a haystack. And I'm like, I'm gonna try, right? So you have got to try. So there you go. For 4 years, my job was maintaining these guys so they don't die. And every week, every day, I'm in a microscope looking at how they move and all of that, doing videos, doing extractions of what sugars are they producing, what carbohydrate are they producing when they're behaving like this in the culture, like all of that, right? And so I'm gonna share with you how exactly do these guys move, okay? And this is what I was doing every second of my day. Without the music.
You sure?
So that's my cell. was my everyday thing, and so I did not solve the mystery, unfortunately. It was so hard. I was trying all possible antibodies to, go and see if it binds with this carbohydrate. I just can't pinpoint like which one of these is the one used for movement, right? And it was just hard. But I was able to identify all those modalities and correlate it with the environment. You will see that, sometimes they glide, sometimes that they exhibit more of those movements depending upon the conditions, okay? So it was very interesting. And so even if I did not solve the mystery, I contributed something to the scientific community with that movement modalities, and so I got my degree. So the thing I wanted to share with you is, so you have seen that's my family. A year before, and I want to share this with you because I know some of you probably have your little darlings, somewhere. And I don't know if you're in like long distance and it's a problem, right? Okay, now I'm gonna tell you already, okay? 4 years, I was in Michigan. My boyfriend then was in Georgia, okay? We dated for a year, and then we got engaged. We were engaged for 1.5 years. After engagement, we got married then, right? And I was long distance the whole entire time, right? And so how did we survive on that? If you put Christ in the middle of your relationship, no matter what, it's gonna be solid. I guarantee you. That makes sense? Okay? So that was the key, right? And I was gifted with a boyfriend, fiance, and a husband who's very, very supportive of my life, right? And then 3 months before my graduation, I was gifted again of that little girl, right? 3 months before graduation, which means it was my thesis defense. So all the pressure, can you just think, oh my Lord, of all the time, right? But if it's His plan, it's His plan, right? And so I got through it. So I had the degree and the baby, right? A few months later, now I got the baby. And then after that, I was so blessed. One of the key things I want to share with you with job also, right? The blessing of work. While I was there in Michigan, when you get to your grad schools later on, you, depending upon your PI, your supervising professor, depending on the contract, most of the time you're research. I was hired for a research assistantship, so I should be working in the lab, right? I am not compelled to teach, but you can if you want to teach, okay? I took that opportunity. There's no extra pay for it, right? I took that opportunity because, again, it's an opportunity to expand your horizon, to get more skills, to get more learning in the process. So I volunteered, I taught, right? And guess what? For no extra pay. Because I was now in the list of teaching staff, they have summer programs that have extra pay. And it was listed in there, so I was hired during summer because of that as well. So those are some of the things you need to do, when you go to your grad school, whatever it is, every opportunity possible that you can expand your horizon, do it, okay? Because that essentially paved the way for me to easily now get to after 3 months, after my baby came out, I wanted to already go find a job. And I was my first job as a teaching professor, and it was a tenure track position, was in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm not sure if you're familiar. It's a small regional state university. I was tenure track. Now, so what it is when you are tenure track? You are in a track to get a tenure. What is a tenure? That is a position that you won't be kicked out of the university unless you have really bad criminal offenses, right? They can't just kick you out. So that's not anymore a very common thing now, though. They're trying to get rid of tenure, right? But that's one of those things before, right? When you apply for university positions, it's good to have a tenure track position. So I was in that track. I was very lucky that at that time, will come out, hopefully. Okay, see, told you. At that time, when I joined, it was just after Hurricane Katrina. I don't know if you guys have heard about the hurricane. Maybe you were not born yet. You were so young. Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans at that time. It was the most devastating hurricane, right? And the reason for that, why they got hit so bad, is because of the denudation. Okay, this is their coastline before, right? And that year started to thin and thin until it gets really, really now thin. And so when Katrina hit, it essentially hit everything because there's no buffer. So again, that's the importance of your mud flat. The mud flat is a buffer for any construction that you have, inland, right? And so you want to protect that mud flat. So it's very kind of relevant to what I was doing when I was in Michigan Tech, right? Because that was about the stabilization of mud flats and all that. So I did some research on that while I was there, building up supposed to be my portfolio for my tenure. But then my husband, of course, had to be called out, notified, you have to come back to Georgia. So we had to pack, go back to Georgia, and trust God, probably I can get another position, right? So we went, and I ended up, again, started Googling. Now it's Google time, right? Now Yahoo's gone, Google's in. So I was Googling, is there gonna be a place where I can teach and have a job? And there was an opening in the University of North Georgia. One of the key things, so I started as adjunct, okay? And it was just good because at least I have a job and then I still have my little one. So it was good having an adjunct position. And then I was promoted a year after as now full-time lecturer. At that time, when you get to that full-time, now you can do research again. So now I'm doing research again. So what was I doing? I was doing water quality monitoring. So again, when you do research when you go and do your research, always think about what is relevant to the place that I am in. What is the problem existing that I can contribute, hopefully, to that. So at this time, there was a lot of lakes and creeks near the university, and there was some issue about pollution problem in those. So we did water quality monitoring. That was my student, and because it was like a controversial issue, our results actually got posted in this, or published in this newspaper, local newspaper in that area. That's Gainesville, Georgia, not Gainesville, Florida, okay? So that's Gainesville Times in Georgia. And so we had, recognized our results, kind of supported the community's claim that there is pollution and therefore we need to do something about our water quality. So that was good. At least we have some contribution to that. Concomitant with that, while we were doing the water quality monitoring, of course my algae cannot be put on the side. I have to study my algae. So we were gathering algae again, and this time we were trying to see, okay, what are the species that are there and what type of possible lipids that it has, because biofuel, green energy was in at that time, right? So we were trying to identify what are the resources that are there. Not very long, my husband, again, got now a promotion, but with a relocation, and this time it has to be in Florida. So, and you might be thinking now, like, why on earth will you always just say, okay, let's just move, let's go, right? Like, why can't I let's just stay and you find a job somewhere, right? That's family, okay? When you're a family, you talk what's best for everybody in the family, right? And just to be honest, he brings home the bacon, okay? Okay? University just don't pay as much, right, than industries, so hey, let's go, right? So with the trust that the Lord will provide all the time, never fails. So I never doubted that, right? So I was like, let's just go, okay. We went, and while we were here, there is a new university right there in I-4. You might have seen the building, right? So I was like, oh, that's cool. And then they were wanting for a biologist. So there you go. And it was kind of a deja vu, actually, because I didn't mention this, but when I was at Michigan Tech, while we were doing our bio and all of that, we were actually in collaboration with engineering department, because Michigan Tech is very big in engineering with cars, right? Ford invested a lot of money in the north for that. So we were always working with engineers, right? Another collaboration, networking, very big time. So when I joined Poly, that was one of the things that we were working. It was very exciting. We did so much with my diatoms, as you can imagine, right? From possible drug delivery, right? Nanoparticles, the photoelectrodes for solar cells, like all of that, right? Because these are engineers, right? And so we tried to venture into so many possible uses. So this is like your diatom right here. You can see that's the glass. And those tiny little holes, that's the thing that engineers cannot copy. Because we can make big things, we can't make smaller things. And make it very precise as these guys would make their little holes, right? And so that's nature providing us with that already. And that's what we were trying to explore, like how can we use this for several applications. And so I had very, very productive time at Poly, but then I was called to serve at Southeastern. And I can't forget the dinner that we had. We went to Bartow, have a dinner. On our way home, my husband was like, let's try a different route. Okay, we were on this road, right? In that 98 Bartow Road. And it's like, maybe this is shorter. So we turn right, Crystal Lake Road, right? Turn left, Longfellow Boulevard. Oops, there's a stadium, big. What is that? I've never heard SEU before. When I was at Poly, because I was just Poly, house, that's my day. So I was like, what is this? And my husband's like, looks like a stadium. That has to be either a university or something, but can't be that big, So then we saw the sign, oh, it's Southeastern University. There's a university? Yeah, and then my husband is like, maybe you should look, maybe you can apply a job there. Like jokingly. I'm like, yeah, why not? So I went, Google, looked. There was an opening for a biologist. Like, what are the chances, right? And I'm like, really? And so I cannot forget, it was either a Thursday or a Friday. I sent my application. Monday, I got a reply from the chair. That time was Dr. Straw. So Dr. Straw hired me. He was the chair at that time. And so he said, yeah, we can set up, phone interview and all that. And I'm like, oh, sure, and so we got the phone interview. I got through the demo, all that. It was quick. So once I got the offer, I tendered my resignation at Poly. And the rest is history. And now I'm here, right? Enjoying my time and doing all the research that I can do, okay? So this is the part I want to really encourage all of you, okay? So the pictures of these beautiful faces that you see. Where's Priscilla? Priscilla's over there. Where's Addison? Addison here? Where is Kayla? Michaela? And here, of course, Anna. Anna's been here with me. And these are the current ones. And I work, once I started here, that was the good thing here at SEU, is they immediately let me do the research I wanted to do. I had a lot of students that graduated already. And some are still here, still working, and still actually working with some of the projects. So I have Rocco. Rocco used to work with me in the project. Who else here? Hannah. Hannah used to work with me. So who else is here that I haven't mentioned? But what I'm trying to tell you guys is it is such I think, an experience to do research, okay? It is not just the learning that you will get. It's not just the, talking about all of the science behind all of these, but it is the patience. It will test your patience a lot. Your perseverance, right? Your perseverance, your determination. Can you carry this through? This is one of those tests. So if you're planning to go into grad school, whatever it is that you're planning to do later on in your life, it is a good experience to actually, do some research, work with other people. Doesn't have to be me, like in your fields, right? You're in ministry, work there.
If you're in music, work with music, right? And there's so much avenue that you can do if you do research. Yeah, I really encourage you to do that. So that is kind of the experience. These are the kind of things that we are now looking at. Again, it's algae, it's just algae, it's just come in the water, but there's so many uses, right? As you can see, we are looking at, depending upon your degree, when you work on this, we try to venture into what are applications we can get from algae. So we have now trying to venture, what are the properties that might be anti-cancer, fighting infection, allergies, right? Some diseases. These are the bioactive compounds that you can get from algae that can be used for those purposes. So I encourage you to really, really try to get in touch with any of your supervisors, and gain an experience. So before I will end this, I really want us to say this prayer, right? This is based on Psalm 90:17. May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. So let's all pray. Heavenly Father, bless the work of my hands. Let me be fruitful and productive so that you may be glorified. Give me strength to carry out the work you have given me to do, and help me to have a good attitude even when it is difficult. Amen. Thank you all so much, and I'm open for questions. Anything. It could be science, it could be whatever. So go ahead, shoot the question. Yes.
What year did you leave Polytech?
What year did I leave?
Yes.
2019. Yes.
I was just wondering, because my brother went to college there.
Yes. I left probably in 2019. Yeah. Yes, sir.
How long into starting the new professor, that welcome class with me, did you start to think maybe it was a bad idea to choose to come here?
Yeah. What year was that we started together? 2019?
It was 19, yeah.
2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one more thing, did you wear green on purpose
The green?
for the algae?
I didn't even think about that.
Oh.
See the influence. I'm rubbing it on you now. You go out and you see the scums in the water and you're like, algae. Very important. Okay? Yeah. What else? Any other questions? Yeah, me and Dr. Almond, we started together. That was a good tango. Yes.
So in Bio 2, we just got through the section on protists and all
Sure.
that stuff that includes diatoms and that. And we went over that their outermost parts are made out of silicon dioxide, which is glass. But I didn't realize it was more or less solid glass. So how?
Yeah, right?
How do they basically make their own glass houses?
Yeah, so that's kind of the interesting part of that. So different species will have different amount of deposition on their silica. So there are most centric, the one that I told you, they're more squarish and circular. They're very heavily silicated, so they're not amorphous. So they're very solid, more solid. And how do they make that is the question. So in their metabolic process, when they lay out their membrane, they will have a scaffold, essentially, and then they will start depositing the silicon in the membrane scaffold. So there's a protein that they will use embedded on that membrane, and then start depositing the silica in them. So that's how, and that's why it's like nature's gift, right? Because when they deposit the silica, they will design it where some are circular. There's holes in the silica that are circular, and it's like ornament essentially. Yeah. But that's how. If the question is how do they actually put it together, it's like that. They will have the protein laid out during the membrane formation, and then they will start putting the silica in there. And so because we know how they do that, there's actually the one of the advancements that they do now is genetic modifications of these diatoms. So if you can manipulate the gene that actually controls the deposition of the silica, you can control the size of the holes, what you can put in. So they have now tried the diatoms to incorporate in the silica metals, for example. So you can put titanium in there as they're making the silica. And that makes it more effective, especially if you use it for solar cells. Because what we tried to do before the genetic modification was you will use it like what I have shown here, right? So that, yeah, so you will use this and then you get, so you get the diatom, you kill the diatom, you get just the pustule, and then you clean it up, right? Get all the organic debris from it, and then you dope it. So you essentially will have to have linker molecules to attach to these holes or wherever you want to attach in them. So you have to establish that attachment. So you have to have the molecule on the silica and then whatever you want to attach. So you can use PEG or whatever so that you can make the attachments. So that's what we were doing before. It is good if you're successful. Has a lot of failures, of course, because it's hard to stabilize that. So, but if you do it genetically, so this is what they were doing. This is a genetic modification, this one. Genetic modification where you can see now the variability of the resulting silica deposits on the wall because of genetic modification. So that kind of now got more improved in terms of their application. So the same thing with like drug delivery. That's the reason it's being used also for drug delivery, again, because of the precision of that hole, right? If you can control that, when to open, when to close, then you will have a direct delivery of the drug. So it doesn't get released before the target. Because that's our problem with the drug, is that you take the drug and then all of your body gets the drug, right? And the next thing you know is the side effects of the drug, right, for your system. So what we were hoping is that if you can do a targeted delivery with this, it will only open when it hits the target. So you will have a sensor there as well. So that's kind of where it's kind of heading towards when it comes to the application. Anything else? Yes.
When did you learn English?
That's a good question. When I was in first grade. So in the Philippines, because again, we were set free by the Americans, right? So we were fined in the class if we don't speak English. So if you don't, it makes the class so quiet. I'm telling you, nobody talks. The little ones are like, and then you go whisper. Because the teacher, you have to speak English. So that was kind of the training. It's like, okay, you're gonna have to, and that's how we, yeah. So we learned that. That's always our second language. You can see that if you listen to some Filipinos, they cannot speak straight Filipino without an English like inserted somewhere in the sentence. Yeah, it has gone that bad at some point that our leaders in the country were like, we are not now anymore speaking our native tongue. We're so English already oriented, And then the internet came and I'm like, forget it. Go for English, okay? Yeah. Anything else? I think that, oh, yes.
And then how much of the research got published at SU?
Here at SEU, right now, well, depends on the publication you're talking about. All of the FAS that we were presented is published. The abstracts that we were submitting, those are all published in the FAS publication. So they have a consolidation of all the abstracts, so that's published. But as far as the whole research is being published, we're still working. We're currently working on that. It's hard because, so one of the key things, I think as far as publication, especially for an undergraduate research, because you don't spend so much time on gathering data. So how much data do you really get? So we were able to put together a good paper because we utilized like 3 different projects, I think, and then we combined it together, and then that makes a good story. Because at the end of the day, so when it comes to publication, at the end of the day, you have to have a good story that targets a specific problem, right? And so when you guys do your research most of the time, it's usually tailored to where, okay, you have this question, but it only answers a very, very minute amount of the bigger, realm of the question. And so for something to be published, especially in a peer-reviewed journal, you want to make sure you have enough of tangible information that you can provide as a new, that's the key. It has to be a new contribution to the knowledge in the scientific community. That makes sense? So if you're just like, we're trying to do this for this species and this species is different, so that's interesting, but probably not worth the publication. So that's where it becomes challenging at that point, because you have to have a good contribution for it to be published. But it's the experience. The important thing is the experience to that, because when you get to your master's, that is a must. And so when you go to your master's, when you get started, if you go to grad school, I encourage you, if you go to grad school, start already thinking about your thesis at the very moment you start with your master's degree. Like already start, already do literature review. Because if you wait, it's not until, you're on time. You're still reading, the other people are already doing their experiments. That makes sense? So the sooner you get to it, the better you will be. And you will have better data set. Yeah. Yes.
How did you manage school or work with social life?
Easy. I was partying. I'm telling you that already. Yes, I always tell my students, right? Like, don't miss a party. That is they only pass this life once, right? You're only gonna be 20 once, the next year you're gonna be 21, goodbye 20. Like, you have to put, whatever it is you can experience. The key thing though, is you have to be smart with it, right? So whenever I know that there's a party coming, especially here, it's so predictable, right? The Halloween, all of that, the homecoming, like it's on schedule. Okay, so you're like, I have an exam on that day, the day before the party or the day after the party. I'm gonna nail this the week before the party, like bring it on. I'm already ready. See what I'm saying? And then I go to the party, and then I come home, I still get an A. That's it, like don't miss parties, yes. You will never get back to where you can still, like groove. Like now I can't even wear high heels anymore because of my arthritis in the foot. So, do whatever you can do at this stage in your life, because you only pass this way once. You'll never come back. Right? Yeah, what else? Any other questions? Yes. Oh, yes, Talon.
What was your favorite university, whether you worked at or studied at?
Oh, that is so difficult. They have different strengths, and I think I was offered, by the way, I was offered to do my PhD in that university where I did my fellowship, my research fellowship. It was I told you, the students there, incredible discipline, right? But I think that was also one of the things that I was like, I don't think I can manage this kind of discipline for the rest of my life. It was so hard. Like, we were hardworking also, I thought, in the Philippines until I saw that. And it was like mandatory. You cannot leave, I was like, I think that's, to me, at that point in my life, I think that was too much, I felt, right? Like, okay, I don't know, I can't carry out. That's why they were the first one to actually offer me to do the PhD, and I was like, okay, let me think first. Because I know it would be good, because there's no way you cannot finish, because they are gonna really get you there, right? But I also want to enjoy. That was the thing. It's like, okay, I want a more balanced thing, I can work as much as I can, but I also want to have it. So when it comes to that, I love the work ethics, but I don't want it to be my lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So I like that the part that the students are disciplined is good, but I think on my standard, it was too stringent for me, I think. I like what I had at Michigan Tech. Michigan Tech was very open to, and that's the part I like. It opened the networking with engineering. I worked with engineers. I worked with chemists. Like, that's why I like collaborating, because that's the only way. Like, when you network, the moment you network, you accomplish more than what you expect, because you have your goal, I have mine, and we can meet in the middle and set up two goals at one shot. That makes sense? So that's the part I think I really like at Michigan Tech at that point. It was just too cold. I just thought, I'm like, once I graduate, I was like, no north. I was so glad I met a Georgian, right? Like, thank goodness it was the South. Like, no, I can't live there. It was too cold. Poly was good when it comes to that, because at that point at Poly, we were like tech. You know, we're like Michigan Tech, very collaborative at that point. But the you know, just like any university, then the politics, the nature, the culture of the university changes with people. And so even though sometimes the university has a setup that's supposed to be, you know, meant for something, it can change when people change. And so that doesn't reflect the university's thing, it's really more of the people. And so it's very important that when you know, go on a certain place, like, you know, that's why my motto was make the most of what you've got. Because sometimes you can set things, but if it's not what is there at that point, it might fail you. So, yeah. There was no specific place where I was like dreading to be there. No, everything was good. But the thing that that was the thing that, like, when I got called to be here, it was like I was called. And I knew I was heeding to the call. Because it was like, how did it happen? It was something that, you know, like, for my husband to just drive through and like it was just not normal for me, right? That's why whenever I'm asked, how'd you get to Poly? I always say, I was called to be at SCU. I was called to be at SCU. Because it was that. And since then, it's the best thing I think that happens here is, this is the only place I can express my faith without restrictions, without thinking, you know, people might say something, right? Or not acknowledge your faith, at least. And we have that here. And so I treasure that a lot. You know, being in a place where you can be what you are, what you believe, right? And respect each other. You don't have to believe what I believe, but we always respect each other. And that's, I think, what's the bottom line, right? In every place that you want to go. And we have that. So we are all lucky that we are here together in this place of the Lord, right? Okay, any other questions? I know it's been long already. Dr. Alman, are we good to go? Okay, thank you guys so much.